I think so.
Okay. I'm Shelby Tarter.
I'm Abby Campbell.
I'm Terrence Swartz.
And I'm Morgan Bates.
And this is on microdosing psilocybin. So what is psilocybin? Psilocybin is a chemical compound that's found within hallucinogenic mushrooms. These mushrooms typically grow in more humid climates, although they can still be found in drier climates like Wyoming or Colorado. And typically they're these mushrooms that have long, slender stems with caps that have dark gills on the underside. And these mushrooms produce the compounds psilocybin and psilocine, both of these which possess hallucinogenic properties. And hallucinogens can alter a person's sense of time and perception. So these might cause a person to hallucinate, see things weirdly or distorted, or hear things that aren't there. And some of the common names for this compound can be mushrooms, shrooms, magic mushrooms, or blue meanies. A quick fun fact is that voters in Colorado actually helped to pass a law saying that you can now go buy psilocybin and psilocine. Both of these are found within shrooms, so you can go buy actual mushrooms now. And although this was passed, there are still some limitations to it. So only licensed facilitators are allowed to sell it or use it. And then you can also grow it at home now, although you do still have to be 21. And then how does psilocybin affect us? These mushrooms can be ingested in multiple ways, such as being put on a food, being blended into something, or even being steeped into like a tea. And once in our bodies, the compound psilocybin is converted to psilocine, which is the compound that mainly gives us those hallucinogenic properties. And the psilocine will bind to the 2A receptors in the brain or serotonin receptors. By binding to the serotonin receptors, it will lead to an increased activity in the visual cortex, which is what we see change our perception. And then it'll decrease the activity of the default mode network, or in other words, lead to a loss of self-perception. So this is why people who might be taking shrooms at a higher dose might feel like they transcend beyond themselves.
So what is microdosing? Microdosing is taking small amounts of the drugs to test the benefits of the psychological effects and trying to minimize the side effects. Microdosing psilocybin is supposed to benefit mental health issues without the psychedelic effects that occur when taking larger doses of mushrooms. A microdose is anywhere in between for mushrooms of 50 milligrams to 200 milligrams. There is a recommendation that you start off with 100 milligrams and then decrease or increase the amount as needed. How often should someone microdose? Ultimately, it's up to the user and how it makes them feel. There's been a lot of research done about this, and there is a schedule that was created by Dr. James Fidman. And well, I'll talk about that later, but some people microdose every few hours, other people only microdose on the weekends, and some people just do it during the weekday to enhance their professional work life. So yeah, ultimately it's up to you. So according to James Fadiman, he's a leading researcher of psychedelics, and on day one, you microdose and you feel the effects and you keep a journal of the effects. And then on day two, you do not microdose, but you still might feel some of the effects. They will be less pronounced. And then on day three, this is a day for you to rest and there should be no effects at all. And you use this day and compare it to the day that you did microdose. And then you can compare and contrast the effects. And then on day four, you can dose again and just kind of compare that self and use this self-study to kind of gauge how often you should microdose. It's also a good way to keep track of the possible health benefits that you feel. So how does it affect the brain? It's been shown to increase subjective sense of well-being, optimism, and openness in humans. It's kind of a drug that makes you think outside of the box. And it also has been shown to have antidepressant, anti-compulsive, and addictive properties. Um, the effects of these psychedelic substances can be argued to target the serotonergic system and hence be beneficial in situations, like I said, for mental flexibility or needing to break through patterns of thought. And because of these effects, that's why people will participate in microdosing. So the microbiology behind it, the genus is psilocybe, which is part of the Hymengastraceae family. Most members of this family are known to have psychedelic effects. There's psilocybe semelacieta is the species of mushrooms that contain psychedelic effects. And these mushrooms contain the compound psilocybin, psilocin, and then biostistin, which are the compounds that cause the tripping effects. And then how it produces the hallucinogenic effects. It is derived from the amino acid tryptophan, which has the indole amine ring. Tryptophan is then converted to tryptamine by decarboxylation. Two methylation steps produce DMT, which also has hallucinogenic properties, and then hydroxylation of DMT produces psilocin, which is more potent, and then psilocin is then phosphorylated to produce psilocybin. And when ingested, the body cleaves the phosphoryl ester bonds, which releases the hallucinogenic effects.
And here I have some of the benefits of microdosing psilocybin. These are not all of them, there's a lot, but these are like the most prominent and the most used. The first being to relieve symptoms of depression. Um, Microdosing may be effective in as few as 1 to 2 treatments, which is much faster than typical antidepressants, where you would have to take them for like a month to even notice a difference. And there can be immediate and long-term effects. A study was done by Johns Hopkins Medicine on 24 people with long-term depression. And in order for them to be a part of the study, they got off of their previous antidepressants. 13 of the participants received the psilocybin treatment immediately, while the other 11 received the same treatment after 8 weeks. The treatments consisted of 2 doses of psilocybin 2 weeks apart, and the results showed 67% of people showed more than a 50% reduction in depression symptoms at the 1 week follow-up and 71% at the 4-week follow-up. Psilocybin can also help manage cancer and terminal illnesses, and it kind of changes their outlook on life. It gives them more peace around death and reduces their anxiety, and it also promotes positive self-exploration. It can also improve your mood, boost creativity, and promote introspection and self-realization. And there are some possible risks and negative side effects. There are very few for taking psilocybin at small doses, which is around 30 milligrams per 70 kilograms of body weight. But the following can be coordinated to taking too high of a dose. And the most common side effects are increased blood pressure or heart rate, dizziness, mood changes, excessive yawning and fatigue, and unusual body awareness. And then some of the more rare and potentially dangerous side effects are panic attacks, unease, anxiety, and altered sense of time, inability to recognize surroundings, nausea or vomiting, as well as depersonalization. And there have been no deaths, illnesses, or injuries linked to microdosing mushrooms containing psilocybin.
Regarding the legality of magic mushrooms, the United States is in a very weird spot considering it. There are a lot of different sources that contradict each other out there right now, but what I found is that in November of 2020, Oregon became the first and only state in the nation at the time to legalize psilocybin products and services. This has not come into full effect as of yet. Like Abby said earlier, Colorado voters just passed a ballot to decriminalize possession and legalize limited use of psychedelic mushrooms and other plant and fungi-derived psychedelic drugs by those 21 years of age or older. This measure will decriminalize psychedelic mushrooms, and it is said by 2024 there will be state regulated healing centers that people can use. 24 other states have pursued psilocybin drug policy reform, including reducing penalties or creating working groups to study the medical use of the drug. It is decriminalized in some cities right now, and not the whole state. And these cities are Ann Arbor, Michigan, Oakland, California, and Santa Cruz, California, Somerville and Cambridge, Massachusetts, Oregon and Washington, D.C. And it is since February 2021, it has been legal in Oregon and California for mental health treatment in supervised settings. There are a few countries that have no laws or regulations on magic mushrooms, and those countries are Brazil, Bulgaria, Jamaica, the Netherlands, and Samoa. An interesting thing to know about psilocybin is that if these mushrooms grow on your land, it is not punishable by law. And like stated earlier, there are some places in Wyoming where it does grow. This drug is moving pretty fast, like marijuana, and by 2025, it could be a doctor's prescription in a handful of areas. When talking about Wyoming and psilocybin, if you get caught with it, it is up to 20 years in jail and $25,000 in fines. And we know what we know about Wyoming is it's probably going to be one of the last states to legalize it, which means these punishments will be around for a while.
By decriminalizing mushrooms, as said just now, as well as all of the studies that have been done on the effects of mushrooms on the human body, we can see that there are actually more benefits to microdosing mushrooms than there are risks. And by microdosing, we can see a great increase in people who are suffering from anything like anxiety or depression, as it helps to control the positive thoughts and increase those positive thoughts. So as we can see, microdosing isn't bad.
Sick. Okay, how do I stop?